Most people imagine the hero as a figure of permanence, a monument of strength that stands tall against the passage of time. We see the armor, the raised sword, and the moment of victory, and we assume the goal is to become that figure and remain there forever. Yet the stories that have survived the centuries often hint at something far more unsettling. The myth of the hero is not a map to immortality, but a detailed instruction manual for a necessary death. In the landscape of the human psyche, the hero is a figure whose primary function is to be destroyed, and our fascination with him may not be a desire for power, but a deep, subconscious recognition that a part of us must perish if we are to truly live. There is a profound tension in this realization, a biological necessity for maturity that feels to the individual experiencing it like an act of self-betrayal. This paradox creates a strange gravity in the interior life. We find ourselves drawn to the image of the hero, the one who performs many deeds and conquers great foes, while we simultaneously inhabit the reality of what Carl Jung calls the hero of many words. This is the figure in our fantasies who speaks of grand designs and noble intentions, but remains paralyzed in the face of actual demands. This hero of many words is a representation of life energy, libido, that has become stuck, circling endlessly in a familiar harbor. We celebrate the mythic hero because he represents the strength we lack, yet we fail to notice that the mythic hero's greatest achievement is often his own exit from the stage. The tension lies in the fact that the hero we worship is often a symbol for the infantile personality, the part of the soul that refuses to engage with the hard call of reality and instead seeks the irresponsibility and security of a protecting care. When we look at the ending of certain hero myths, where the protagonist is consumed by an earthquake or pulled back into the earth, the text suggests that the one who truly understands him is the mother. This is not a reference to a literal physical mother, but to the mother imago, the psychological state of total containment and safety. To be understood by the mother in this symbolic sense is to be reclaimed by the abyss of childhood. It is the moment where the psyche admits defeat, where the forward-moving energy of the individual is pulled back into the gravity of the past. This return is not a homecoming. It is a collapse. The hero must die as an infantile version of himself, or he will be swallowed whole by the very comfort he refuses to leave. The hero myth is, at its core, a drama of maturation, where the most significant act is a self-sacrifice that looks to the uninitiated eye like a defeat. Carl Jung wrote these observations during a period where he was exploring the deepest layers of the human unconscious, a time when the world was beginning to grapple with the realization that the modern soul was a living archaeological site. He saw that the myths of antiquity were not merely stories told by primitive people, but the coded language of biological and psychological evolution. The stakes he identified were absolute. In his view, the failure to undergo this internal sacrifice was not a minor personal setback, but a recipe for a life characterized by emptiness and meaninglessness. He observed that those who renounced the chance to experience, who chose to stay within the magic circle of childhood, committed a sort of self-murder. They preserved the child, but they killed the potential adult, leading to a state of being where one is practically dead to the world above, a phantom in one's own life. The first stage of understanding this sacrifice requires us to look at the hero as a symbol of the infantile personality. In our fantasies, the hero is often the part of us that remains enchained by the fetters of childhood, the part that wishes to remain a child too long. This infantile hero is the one who wants the rewards of life without the weight of its demands. He is the one who seeks to stop the turning of the wheel, to keep an eternal youth that is not a state of vitality, but a state of suspended animation. The text describes this as a battle for deliverance from the mother, where the mother represents the inertia of the soul. The tragedy of the hero who refuses to die is that he becomes a figure of many words and few deeds, a man who dreams of the sun but remains in the dark, held back by a retrogressive bond that he cannot find the courage to sever. Building on this, We must decode the symbol of the dragon, the classic adversary of the hero. In the logic of the psyche, the dragon is not an external monster to be defeated so that we can claim a hoard of gold. The dragon is the sun's repressed longing, a personification of the retrospective desire to return to the security of the womb. Therefore, the sun is the dragon. The hero battling the monster has more in common with his enemy than he cares to admit. They are made of the same substance. The hero is the active, forward-looking energy, and the dragon is the same energy turned backward toward the mother. To slay the dragon is not to conquer a foreign threat, but to sacrifice the part of oneself that is in love with the past. This is why the sacrifice is so painful. It is the renunciation of the most beloved childish values and the irresponsibility that defined them. The third stage of this insight is the realization that this self-sacrifice is a biological necessity. It is not a moral act in the sense of being good or bad, but an act of maturation comparable to the shedding of a skin. The libido that is unconsciously bound up in familial bonds must be brought outside into human contact. This is the path of moral autonomy, where the individual ceases to be an atom revolving around their parents and instead becomes the center of a new system. If this sacrifice is unfulfilled, as Jung notes in the Miller Fantasy, it represents a failed attempt to renounce the mother and a failure to conquer a new life through the death of the old. The psyche tries to move forward. But if it cannot let go of the infantile hero, it remains stuck in a loop, turning round and round in the kingdom of the mother, accomplishing nothing. To understand the weight of this, we must consider the consequence of refusing the sacrifice. When we choose to remain in the morally poisoned infantile atmosphere, we do not actually preserve our youth. Instead, we invite a premature age and death. Idle dreaming, the text warns, is the mother of the fear of death. By refusing to let the child within us die, we become terrified of the actual end of life because we have never truly lived. We become ghosts haunting our own potential. The hero is the one who has the courage of the will to live and the heroism to carry it through, which involves a violent and transitory delivery from the always lurking night. This sacrifice is a sublimation, a transformation of energy from a state of dependence to a state of agency. It is the act of taking the fire of the sun and using it to illuminate the world rather than letting it burn out in the cave of the mother. In this context, the hero's death is a wish fulfillment for the psyche. It is the unconscious signaling that the time of the child is over. The earthquake that consumes the hero is the earth itself, the mother demanding the return of what she gave so that a new form of life can emerge from the ruins. The unfulfilled sacrifice is a weight that pulls the individual down into a state of introversion, where they become a phantom to others. They may be physically present, but their energy is elsewhere, locked in a struggle with a past they cannot leave behind. The hero must die because the hero is the bridge, and a bridge is meant to be crossed and then left behind, not lived upon. This brings us to the nature of the serpent's poison, the retrospective longing that always lurks in the depths. Even when we think we have moved forward, the siren call of the past remains. The depths are enticing because they offer the promise of no more struggle, the return to a state where all needs are met without effort. The heroism required here is not the heroism of the battlefield, but the heroism of the daily choice to face the hard call of reality. It is the willingness to be fruitful, which Jung suggests means to destroy oneself. To transition from one stage of life to the next requires the loss of the previous self. You cannot be the father if you insist on remaining the son. You cannot be the creator if you insist on remaining the protege. What does it mean for your own life if the dragon you are fighting is actually your own desire for comfort? If we look at the internal choices we make, are we standing between a warning and a desire, or are we simply waiting for someone else to slay the monster for us? The text leaves us with the unsettling thought that the most beloved parts of our identity, our childish charms, our safe routines, our refusal to take full responsibility, are the very things that are poisoning our potential for a meaningful existence. We are all heroes in a state of suspension, holding the knife over the sacrifice, wondering if we can survive the loss of the one we have loved the most, our own immature self. If the hero in your fantasy is a figure who performs few deeds, what is the specific nature of the retrogressive bond that holds his hands? When the call to independence comes, how do you distinguish the voice of the true self from the enticing poison of the serpent that invites you back to the depths? If to be fruitful truly means to destroy one's current self, what part of your current identity is standing in the way of the next stage of your biological and psychological maturation? We are left with the ultimate paradox of the hero myth. We spend our lives looking for the hero who will save us, yet the sources suggest that the only hero capable of delivering us is the one who is willing to die. We are the creators of our own dragons, fed by our own longing for a safety that no longer exists in the world of the living. The sacrifice of the infantile hero is the first great task of mankind, a willed death that allows the wheel of life to keep turning. But the danger remains great, and the depths remain enticing. We must wonder if we ever truly sever the bond, or if we are merely engaged in a lifelong battle to stay one step ahead of the earthquake that wishes to take us back. The hero's death is necessary, but the timing of that death remains a mystery that each soul must solve in the silence of its own introversion.